I'ma do you like baby them did me. Yeah. I'll never forget that day. Yeah, no, they was all in the kitchen. I was scared. It was cool. There was about this many too in that bit. I never forget the word. Suckle up Wayne let.
That's Wayne, straight from his own mouth, telling a 15-year-old Lil Twist what really went down when he was just 11. That wild kitchen story? Man, that was only the start of what Birdman allegedly put him through. The come-up came with a heavy price tag. Yo, listen up. We gotta break down one of the most unsettling stories in hip-hop history. We're talking about Weezy F Baby, the greatest rapper alive, as he calls himself, and millions of fans agree. But before Thaw Carter III, before the Grammys, before the sold-out world tours, there was just Dwayne Michael Carter Jr., a skinny kid from Holly Grove, New Orleans, trying to survive a world filled with struggle, bullets, and broken dreams. The story kicks off around 1991 to 1993, when Birdman met Wayne through his brother.
But he said, yeah, I mean, that was actually happening. Did you ever see that?
Yeah. I mean, Baby never played with me like that. Don't let me clear that up. You understand what I'm saying? I never seen Baby play with Juvenile like that.
Slim. Picture this clearly. Wayne was just 8 or 9, still a baby in the game. His real dad had already walked out, leaving him and his mom to face the hard streets alone. His mother, Josiah Carter, was doing everything she could to keep her son on track while living in one of America's toughest cities, a place famous for its music and soul, but also drowning in poverty and violence. Then comes
kissing. I watched him kiss Lil Wayne in his mouth. I said, in his mouth. I said, man, he was lying. He like, I swear to God. He said, I said, what you mean? Like, he smooched him on his cheek or something? Like, no, they tongue kissed.
Brian Birdman Williams, co-founder of Cash Money Records, rolling into that boy's life like a knight in shining jewelry. But here's the haunting question that's lingered for decades. Was Birdman really saving Wayne, or was he building something much darker from the start? You gotta remember what New Orleans looked like back then. Murder rates sky high, the crack era destroying families, and young black boys dying or getting locked up before they even had a chance. So when a flashy music mogul dripping in gold chains and rolling in luxury cars—
I'ma do you like baby them did me. Yeah. I'll never forget that day. Yeah, no, they was all in the kitchen. I was scared. It was cool. There was about this many too in that bit. I never forget the word. Suckle up Wayne let.
Shows interest in your son's talent. What mother wouldn't think that's a blessing? Josiah saw Birdman as her son's escape route from poverty, a lifeline to a better life. But what she couldn't see, or maybe just didn't imagine, was what that road would really cost. Birdman signed Wayne to Cash Money in 1993, when the boy was only 11 years old. Let that sink in. 11. That's elementary school. That's still believing in Santa Claus. While kids his age were worried about recess and cartoons, Wayne was in the studio being molded by grown men with their own motives. Men who didn't just see talent, they saw a gold mine. Birdman even claimed he adopted Wayne in 1995, but there's never been a single legal document proving that. Think about that. He went around calling himself Wayne's father, shaping the public image of a father and son duo that people ate up. But when folks started asking for receipts, nothing. No court files, no legal papers, just Birdman's word and a story that worked perfectly for his image. That father and son narrative became a brand. It made people hesitate to question what was really going on because on the surface it looked like love. It looked like family. Birdman gave Wayne a place to stay, cars to drive, jewelry to wear, and kept calling him son everywhere he went. Wayne embraced it fully. He even tattooed BM Jr. on his chest, literally marking himself as Birdman's child. He dropped Carter Jr. from his stage name because, in his mind, his real dad didn't matter anymore. In a 2011 GQ interview, Wayne made it crystal clear. His biological father didn't care about him, and he felt the same way in return. He had fully given that dad role to Birdman. But here's where things start to twist in ways that make people uncomfortable. What looked like a bond, what looked like love, what looked like a mentor lifting up a lost kid, was it really all that simple? Observers and critics have been questioning this dynamic for years. The affection, the loyalty, the blurred lines, it all created a relationship that was powerful but confusing. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was psychological, emotional, and maybe even manipulative. The deeper you look, the more it feels like the story of Lil Wayne and Birdman wasn't just about fatherhood. It was about control, identity, and a kid growing up way too fast under the spotlight. Too hard for a father figure to show affection? Maybe. Street life don't promise nobody tomorrow, and that's something everybody from the block understands. But context changes everything. And in this case, that same fatherly love starts to look real twisted when you mix in what was allegedly going on behind those Cash Money doors. When you zoom out and look at the whole picture, that excuse starts sounding less like an explanation and more like a deflection. Even Young Buck from G-Unit 50 Cent's crew spoke on what he saw during his time around Cash Money. In an interview with Vlad TV, he didn't dodge the question or sugarcoat anything. He said straight up that he witnessed that behavior himself. Now pay attention to what Young Buck said. It's heavy. He said, Baby never played with him like that. He also said he never saw Birdman act that way with Juvenile either. So clearly this wasn't some Cash Money family tradition or a casual show of affection toward everyone. Nah, this was specific. This was targeted. And that's what makes it so disturbing. Because if this wasn't something Birdman did with every artist, then why only Wayne? Why him? That's the question that turns this whole thing from something weird into something deeply concerning. Then comes rapper 40 Glock, who added even more fuel to the fire with what he claimed he saw. His account was graphic and left people speechless. He described moments that weren't anything like a father-son hug or a family kiss on the cheek. According to him, it was something way more intimate, something no child should ever experience, ever. And he wasn't the only one. Tech N9 from the Hot Boys also claimed he saw kisses between Birdman, BG, and Wayne when they were just teens. And he straight up called it weird. Multiple witnesses, multiple moments, and all connected to the same small circle. This wasn't just rumors. It was a pattern people couldn't ignore anymore. Wayne himself didn't hide from it either. He even addressed it in his lyrics, rapping, I kissed my daddy on the Weed Taking Over remix, almost like he was defending it instead of questioning it. But that's what got the streets talking for years. Was Wayne owning the moment to control his story? Or was that a young man trying to normalize something that should have never been normalized in the first place? Was he protecting Birdman, or was he trying to protect himself from the shame of what happened? That's the question that's haunted this story ever since, because when it comes to trauma, especially the kind people experience in silence, the way it shows up later in life can be complicated, real complicated. Now here's where things take an even darker turn. Those kisses, uncomfortable and shocking as they were, might have only been the surface of something way worse. Because what Wayne described from his childhood at Cash Money is the kind of thing that'll make your stomach twist. In the Carter documentary from 2009, cameras were rolling when Wayne sat down with a 15-year-old Lil Twist and told him about something that happened when he was just 11. And this wasn't some leaked secret. He said it on camera. He wanted that story out there, like part of him needed people to hear it, even if the way he framed it was complicated. He told it casually, but what he described was shocking. Wayne said, baby them did me, and those few words carried a lot of weight. He made it clear Birdman and others were present during what happened, and he said he was scared. Remember, he was only 11, a child by any measure. Reports and Wayne's own later comments pointed to something truly disturbing. Birdman and Slim allegedly arranged for a 14-year-old girl to perform a sexual act on young Wayne, right there in the kitchen, while grown men watched. Let that sink in. This wasn't two kids experimenting or being curious. This was adults setting it up, adults watching, and adults framing it as initiation. It was supposedly a rite of passage into the Cash Money family. But when you strip away the excuses, it's the exploitation of a child. That's what makes this whole thing so dark. And the fact Wayne later told that same story to Lil Twist, another young artist under his care, adds an even more disturbing layer. When he said, Emma, do you like baby them did me? It sounded like part warning, part reflection, maybe even a threat depending on how you heard it. But deeper down, it felt like trauma talking. Like Wayne was repeating something he didn't even fully understand at the time. The truth is, the psychology of abuse can twist everything. Victims, especially when they're kids, often can't see what's happening to them as wrong. because the adults around them made it feel normal. So years later, when Wayne laughed off those stories in interviews, maybe that was his way of coping, of surviving. No matter how you slice it, that story shows something haunting, how a child star got caught in a world that blurred the line between mentorship and manipulation. And it forces everyone to ask, what really went on behind the closed doors of Cash Money Records, and what did it cost Lil Wayne to become the legend we see today? It's like some twisted kind of inheritance, pain passed down instead of wealth. The damage this left on Wayne's life has been deep, documented, and sadly, almost predictable for anyone who knows what childhood trauma really does to a person. In a 2021 podcast, Wayne opened up and made a heartbreaking connection. He tied his early trauma straight to PTSD and then dropped a revelation that shook the whole hip-hop world. He revealed that he tried to take his own life at just 12 years old, a self-inflicted gunshot wound 1 year after that alleged kitchen incident. Think about that timeline. At 11, a horrifying initiation surrounded by adults who should have been protecting him. At 12, he tries to end it all. That's not coincidence. That's pain talking loud. That's cause and effect written in blood and tragedy. A kid doesn't do that for no reason, especially not a kid with fame on the rise, money in his pocket, and a so-called father figure promising love and loyalty. For a 12-year-old to pick up a gun and turn it on himself, something had to be deeply broken in his world. Thankfully, Wayne survived, but that survival carries weight. How many young artists never made it through their darkest moments? How many child prodigies were destroyed by the same system that claimed to protect them? We've seen too many lives lost to overdoses, suicide, and violence, all rooted in trauma that nobody wanted to talk about. Wayne's long and public struggle with addiction, especially his obsession with codeine, or lean, has been tied by both him and others to those early scars. He said himself that it started young, around age 12. And anyone who understands trauma knows exactly what that means. When your mind can't escape the pain, you try to numb it with chemicals. You don't want to feel, you just want to stop feeling. That addiction nearly killed him more than once. Multiple seizures, hospital runs, near-death moments splashed across headlines, and when you line up all the pieces, the young signing to a label full of adults, the strange physical affection, the alleged encounters involving minors, the mental breakdowns, the attempt on his own life, and the lifelong battle with substances, it forms a dark, chilling picture. A picture of systematic exploitation dressed up as mentorship, a cycle of grooming hidden behind money, fame, and loyalty. And what makes it worse, Wayne might not have been the only one. Over the years, other accusations surfaced involving young artists in that same circle. Allegations about Lil Chucky being mistreated around 12 or 13 years old, and even older claims from the 90s involving Birdman and another teenage boy. When you step back and look at it all, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. It's always the same kind of victim. Young, gifted boys from tough backgrounds chasing dreams, brought into a world where boundaries disappeared and exploitation was disguised as family. What should have been mentorship turned into manipulation. Industry voices and cultural analysts have even compared it to other infamous cases across entertainment. Different faces, same tactics. The way abuse gets repackaged as discipline, as training, or as tough love is chilling. They call it mentorship, but in truth, it's abuse in expensive clothes. Fast forward to 2016, when Wayne dropped his memoir, Gone Till November, written during his year-long prison stint. That book quietly said everything without even having to say it all. In it, Wayne clearly distanced himself from Birdman. He wrote coldly, "Birdman's last name isn't Carter, so he's not family." That line hit harder than any diss track for a man who once called Birdman daddy, tattooed his name on his body, kissed him on camera, defended him in interviews. It was like watching a wall crumble after decades of denial. The man who gave him everything was suddenly not family anymore. He didn't spell out the abuse directly, but the shift in tone, the emotional distance said plenty. You could feel that realization. The person he once saw as a savior might have also been the source of his deepest wounds. And that's the tragic complexity of it all. Wayne spent his whole youth in an environment where wrong felt normal, where love came with control and boundaries didn't exist. He was showered with fame, money, cars, and success, but behind the glitz was a broken childhood. So how do you process that? How do you look at the person who made you rich and realize they might have also taken something from you that can never be replaced? How do you separate love from manipulation? How do you hate someone you were raised to worship? That's the kind of inner war that never ends. Wayne's entire identity, his name, his sound, his success, is tangled with the people and pain that built him. And when your whole foundation comes from trauma, facing the truth doesn't just shake your past, it threatens everything you've ever been. Because once you admit the love was abuse, you're forced to rebuild yourself from the ground up. And for Lil Wayne, the kid from Hollygrove who became a global icon, that battle might be the hardest verse he's ever had to write. The talk about Wayne and Birdman is heating up again, with new energy, new context, and way more people speaking out. Social media is on fire right now, flooded with posts comparing situations and calling out what happened to Wayne as one of the most shocking things ever seen in hip-hop. Folks are saying what many didn't want to admit, that the most disturbing part is how public it all was. Those kisses, they were broadcast on TV for millions to see. That documentary clip where Wayne describes what happened in that kitchen, still out there, still online, easy to find. Wayne told his story on camera and the world watched it without truly realizing what we were hearing. It's painful when you look back because this isn't just some random artist we're talking about. This is Lil Wayne, the greatest rapper of his generation. His bars changed the game. His flow flipped hip-hop upside down. He dropped classics back to back, flooding the industry with heat nobody else could match. But the question that haunts it all is, what did that brilliance cost him? How much of his creativity came from a place of pain he never asked for and didn't deserve? How many of those hits we vibed to were actually cries for help disguised as punchlines? How much of that confidence was really a mask for hurt? And how many other young artists have lived through something similar without ever getting the chance, the platform, or the safety to speak their truth? The truth is, the music industry is standing at a crossroads right now, a place it should have reached decades ago. The walls are finally cracking open, and all those secrets, the ones people whispered about but never said out loud, are spilling into the light. Those powerful figures who built their legacies on the backs of kids from the hood, they're finally being looked at differently. Birdman built an empire off the talent of young artists from New Orleans, and the most successful one of them all, Lil Wayne, already told us exactly what went on record, on film, in his own words. So now we gotta ask, what happens next? How do we move forward as a culture and as an industry that claims to love music, but keeps letting its youngest stars suffer in silence? No charges have ever been filed against Birdman tied to these claims, and Wayne himself seems to have found some kind of peace, or at least a way to keep moving forward publicly. But the evidence, the interviews, the timelines, they all form a pattern that's impossible to ignore. And as hip-hop keeps confronting its darkest truths, the Wayne and Birdman story stands as a warning to everyone. It shows what happens when vulnerable kids chasing dreams end up in the hands of powerful men who face no accountability, no rules, and no consequences. Wayne survived something that might have destroyed anyone else. He took all that pain and turned it into poetry, shaping the sound of an entire generation. He's a living legend, but surviving shouldn't be the bar we celebrate. Protection should be. Until the industry changes, until there's real protection for young artists, especially those from rough beginnings who just want a shot at a better life, this cycle will never stop. The names will change, the labels will change, but the pain will stay the same unless we demand better. That's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Sometimes the people who claim they love you the most are the same ones who hurt you the deepest. Sometimes the hands that lift you up are the ones that quietly hold you down. And sometimes the only real way to honor someone's story is to tell everything, even the parts that make us uneasy, even the parts that challenge our heroes, even the parts that force us to question what we thought we knew. Stay tuned, stay aware, and most importantly, protect the kids. This ain't just Wayne's story. It's a wake-up call for an entire industry. If you felt this breakdown, show some love. Hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell so you never miss the next deep dive.